Hey everybody, I got caught in the storm on the way home and I got very wet, so I just got out of the shower and I'm currently in my PJs. And what I really wanted to do was talk to you about Swamp Thing by Alan Moore. So Swamp Thing is not just a character or a book by Alan Moore. Swamp Thing refers to the name of a character that is owned by DC Comics. So there was a comic book series that was created by, I believe it was Len Wein. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his last name. If you haven't noticed, I always mispronounce people's names. And it had a run. It was a very dark, very gritty comic set in Louisiana about this man who gets caught in a chemical explosion and he turns into this swamp thing. And it introduces a particular cast of characters, so on and so forth. And a lot of people like this. I own the first issue of that that comic, and it's at my parents' house. And I like it, I appreciate it, but where we get to the level of Shakespeare was shortly after that run with Alan Moore. And when we talk about this beast of a comic phenomenon, we're talking about the Saga of the Swamp Thing. So Alan Moore inherited Swamp Thing in a really interesting time in comic book history. So I'm not a comic book historian, and you can probably find somebody. If you haven't noticed, I always get details wrong. I get big picture concepts really right, and then I get details very, very wrong. And I'm very lucky in that the people who tell me to make videos don't really care about that. But you shouldn't really take anything that I say seriously. I'm not an expert. So this came out in a time when there was a lot of censorship in comics. Like you can actually see hearings from Congress in like the 50s where they would like talk about how bad of an influence comics were on kids and whatnot, and there's this thing called the Comics Code, which you can read all about on Wikipedia, that tried to regulate the content of these, and DC and Marvel played along. And Swamp Thing, the Saga of the Swamp Thing by Alan Moore, is an example of something that doesn't play along with that code, which I guess that the government wasn't enforcing it anymore, or it was that maybe retailers didn't care about having the Comics Code logo. I don't know. If one of you knows, please put it in the comments, because I would, yeah. So Alan Moore's English, and he has a big beard, and he is very psychedelic. He knows all about magic and like the Aleister Crowley sense of the word. He knows all about mythology. He's also extremely literate and well-read. He knows all about the English classics, and he's read all the poetry that more poetry than I'll ever read in my life. And he knows this stuff really, really well. He really seems to have gotten the most out of whatever English learning system he went to. And this all shows up in Swamp Thing. So I guess that the biggest difference that you get between Saga of the Swamp Thing and everything before is that suddenly Saga of the Swamp Thing becomes Shakespearean. And you really feel that in the first issue of Saga of the Swamp Thing. What goes on is Alan Moore acknowledges all the work and all the writing that has led up to this moment, in how the Swamp Thing comports himself, in what the Swamp Thing has this soliloquy where he addresses the fallen foe from the story arc in the pre-Alan Moore run, and so Alan Moore takes all this and he accepts that this Saga of the Swamp Thing is going to be part of this overarching canon, Swamp Thing, the comic book character, in the same way that there might be some kind of a canon for Batman, or there are religious canons, and it's the same kind of thing. So Alan Moore's putting this into the canon of Swamp Thing, but he's doing it in a completely different way. He's doing it in a way where the Swamp Thing that we're introduced is a Shakespearean tragic hero. And what do we mean when we say that somebody is a Shakespearean tragic hero? Well, it means that there's something about them that's better than us. But at the same time, there's going to be something about them that is going to be very tragically flawed. So one of the really big kind of breaks that you get comes very shortly after, where there is an investigation into the nature of what Swamp Thing is. And this central concept, which characterizes Saga of the Swamp Thing from then on, is that Swamp Thing is not a man who has been turned into plant matter. Rather, he is plant matter that, in the chemical explosion that I described earlier, when that happened, that like these microorganisms started to imitate the structure of a man, and this is what formed the Swamp Thing. So the Swamp Thing isn't a man. The Swamp Thing is these things in a swamp that work together in such a way that they lead a man to believe that he's a man, because he has the memories of his life as a man, so on and so forth. And the thing is that this doesn't actually separate us from Swamp Thing. This doesn't make him less human. As a matter of fact, from a very philosophical point of view, it makes him more human than many other characters that we encounter, because I think that this whole idea of Swamp Thing being all of these different components that add up together and function in such a way where a mind operates in relation to memories and form this dynamic being is no different than what it means to be human. I personally felt like what we're talking about is no different than a human, where we're composed of all these chemicals, and we're composed of atoms, and all these, we have memories, but we're very different. We grow, we change, and what we are as a multicellular life form is only one way to look at it, because we can look at each cell that makes us up, and those are all living creatures, and there's so much bacteria in us. There's a whole universe inside of our bodies, right? And so just to think that there's one thing and that it doesn't get broken down into anything more isn't totally accurate in my view. And I mean, just in order for our minds to function and us to be able to construct an identity, there are countless things that have to be going on by countless different living organisms that constitute our body. So I think that what I'm getting at here is that the deeper that you get into Swamp Thing, the farther it goes away from science fiction, the further it goes away from noir or mystery or any of these kinds of genres. It really goes deep into the soul. It goes deep into one of the best reviews that I read of Swamp Thing, and they stuck it in the jacket of the Volume 1 trade, is they referred to it as a very cerebral experience, and that's precisely what it is. Swamp Thing is an intensely emotional work. It's an intensely dramatic work. It's very theatrical, and it's a very insightful and contemplative work. So with Swamp Thing, what you're going to get is you're going to get a lot of exploration of emotion. You're going to get a lot of exploration of the human condition, and you're going to get exploration of of relationships in the same way that you would in Shakespeare. So really, Shakespeare is, or Swamp Thing is Shakespeare in a DC comic, okay? It's really what it is. I think the final thing that I'm going to say is that one of my favorite things about Swamp Thing is the relationship that Swamp Thing has with Abigail Arcane. So Superman has Lois Lane, Batman has Catwoman. The person that Swamp Thing connects with is Abigail Arcane, and Abigail Arcane is a school teacher. I think that she teaches at a school of orphans, and she has white hair, and she is so beautiful inside, and has this ability to really see in the whole Little Prince way what is essential to the heart, or what is essential is invisible to the eyes, and only the heart can see it. Don't quote me on that. And so I think that is something that really characterizes Abigail Arcane. The other thing is that Abigail Arcane, she has some. So she's the one character really who is going to accept and fully love Swamp Thing. And when you see how this is depicted in art and storytelling, I think it's the best romance that you'll find in DC Comics. Maybe Tom King has something that's on par, but not as far as these kinds of spectacles go. But you'll have to make it through to the second volume in order to see that really come to fruition. So I've already told you a lot. I think that Swamp Thing's a really easy sell. I love it. I think that when you read it, please pay attention to the paneling. So please pay attention to how the panels relate to each other and how the panels are all spread out on a page, because it's very artistically done. I really hope that you take a chance and read Swamp Thing. I would read the first volume and the second volume, and if you really love it, keep going. And if you feel like after the second volume you're ready to cash in your chips and walk out, you're gonna miss some great content, obviously, but like I think that's probably going to be your best exit point if you aren't totally invested in Swamp Thing, but you like enjoyed the ride. With that, I'm going to thank you I'm very grateful for the fact that you tuned in and watched this video. I am so grateful that there are people who care so much about what I have to say about books. I honestly think that you should feel totally comfortable and confident to make your own videos. There are plenty of people, I'm sure, who would love to hear you talk. And you know what I really like is I like it when people comment on the videos. I love it when people share their opinions, and I love hearing what they have to say. And you know, whenever I read those comments, I oftentimes feel like the people who comment, if they made videos, they would be saying things that are much more insightful than I do. And I also want to say that I really encourage you to tell me when I'm wrong. And I'm not just talking about when I get the details wrong, but like if you like read a book and you had a totally different interpretation from me, or you think that I'm totally off on something, like please tell me, because I learn so much from all of you, and everybody else will learn a lot from all of you. So I think that the only reason why I continue to make these videos is because of the relationship that I have with the people who comment on these videos. It's really awesome. So with that, I'm going to let you go. Hey, the world is going through a very, very hard time right now, and I think that I'm sorry that you have to deal with whatever you're dealing with. I really, 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 truly am sorry for whatever pain and suffering you've had to deal with during the pandemic and during all these incredible events that are happening throughout the world. And even if I don't know who you are or what you look like or anything like that, I want you to know that like my heart's genuinely with you, even if it's in a very conceptual way. So, all right, okay, goodbye.